Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that I think a lot of us interact with every single day, but might not know that much about. How about you?
Yeah.
Have you really thought about like the brains behind the apps and websites we use all the time?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like we use them without really thinking about the people building them.
Exactly. So today we're diving into the world of product management. We've got a ton of research and case studies to dig through. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much better understanding of how those everyday digital products go from like a simple idea to something that millions of people use and, importantly,
Pay for.
right, got to keep the lights on.
Exactly. And that's the business side we'll be uncovering too. What makes a product not just great to use, but also profitable?
Totally. So are you ready to break down the mysteries of product management?
Let's do it. I've got some interesting debates lined up for later too. But first, back to basics, right? What exactly is product management?
Yeah, let's start there. I feel like I have a vague idea, but well, our sources define it as basically guiding a product through its entire life cycle, from that initial spark of an idea all the way through to launch, and then what comes after, which is a whole other beast. And the big thing is it's not just about building something cool. It's got to resonate with users and align with those business goals.
So it's kind of like being a conductor of an orchestra, making sure all the different parts work together.
Exactly. Think of it like this. You've got this awesome idea for a task management app. We'll call it Taskmaster. But Taskmaster isn't just another to-do list, right? It's going to be sleek, intuitive, packed with features that'll actually make people enjoy being productive.
All right, I'm already sold. Sign me up. Where do I download it?
But seriously, how does a product manager even begin to bring an idea like that, like Taskmaster, to life?
Well, first things first, they've got to really understand their target audience. Who are these super organized, productivity-obsessed people? What are their pain points with the task management apps that are already out there? What features would make them say, this is it, this is the one? So it's kind of like being a detective for productivity junkies.
Yeah, you could say that. And once the PM, or product manager, has a really solid understanding of that target user, then they work with designers to create that user-friendly interface, right? And they're collaborating with engineers to actually build the features. And they've got to loop in marketing to make sure people actually hear about Taskmaster and download it.
So it's really all about teamwork, huh? Bringing together all these different people with their own expertise.
100%. And that's where the product manager really acts as a bridge. They're the central hub, making sure everyone's on the same page, working towards that shared vision for what Taskmaster can be. They're the ones saying, okay, marketing team, we're thinking $4.99 a month for Taskmaster. How does that fit with our target market? Can we get enough users at that price?
Wow, so they're thinking about everything, from like the nitty-gritty design details to the big picture pricing and marketing strategy.
And we haven't even gotten to what happens after the app launches, because that's when the real work begins, right?
Oh, right. It's not like you launch and then just forget about it.
Exactly. A good product manager is constantly analyzing data, tracking how people are using the app, and then using those insights to make it even better.
Always iterating, always improving.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about product management. It's this constant evolution. You're always learning and adapting to meet the needs of your users.
That makes a lot of sense. But you mentioned earlier, making Taskmaster profitable. So let's talk money. How do product managers actually turn an app like this into, a cash cow?
The million-dollar question. And to really illustrate that, let's shift gears for a sec from our fictional Taskmaster and look at a real-world example, Apple in their iPhone.
Okay, Apple and the iPhone, talk about a product that pretty much everyone knows. But when we're talking about like successful product management, what can we really learn from a giant like Apple?
Well, I think their revenue kind of speaks for itself, right? Like last year alone, they made over $200 billion with a B just from iPhone sales.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think it proves just how important it is to consistently innovate, to keep refining your product. And most importantly, really understanding what those users want even before they know it themselves.
It's like Apple has this crystal ball or something, always one step ahead.
Right. And that forward thinking, that's a hallmark of great product management. Anticipating trends, understanding how user needs are evolving, always thinking about how to improve and expand.
So it's not just about the idea itself, but where that idea can go, like a whole journey.
Exactly. Now let's get back to our Taskmaster team. They're obviously not Apple yet, but they've got this great idea. So what are some things they need to keep in mind as they dive into this whole world of product management?
Well, how do they even know if they're building the right things? We talked about user feedback, but there's also business goals, what's hot in the market right now, how does the PM handle all of that?
You hit on a really key point, and that's prioritization. Our sources actually talk a lot about this idea of the Pareto principle. You might know it as the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, but usually it's like 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But in this case, we can apply it to product management too. It basically suggests that 80% of the value users that comes from just 20% of a product's features.
Oh, interesting. So a good product manager can really pinpoint those crucial 20%, the features that are going to make the biggest difference.
Exactly. So going back to Taskmaster, let's say they're thinking about adding this really fancy calendar integration, but they're also trying to perfect their task sorting algorithm. If that algorithm is what's really going to make people love the app, well,
that's where they should put their energy.
Exactly. Focus on what matters most.
This is making a lot of sense. You've got your user research, the market analysis, and knowing how to prioritize. But at some point, you've got to actually start building, right? What happens then?
That's where the real work begins. And that's where the product manager's communication and collaboration skills are really put to the test. They'll be working super closely with engineers, designers, everyone to bring that product to life. They'll be saying stuff like, hey, dev team, remember that task sorting algorithm? Let's make sure we get that built and tested in this sprint.
Sprint. Is that like a technical term or something?
Kinda. It's a big part of agile development, which is a really popular way of working in tech. Basically, a sprint is a set period of time, usually a week or two, where the team is laser focused on getting specific tasks done.
So like mini deadlines within the bigger project timeline.
Yep, exactly. And PMs will often use tools like Jira, that's a really common project management software, to keep track of all those tasks and deadlines.
Jira, I've heard of that. But okay, we can't talk about product management without talking about data, right? Is it all just spreadsheets all day long?
Well, there are definitely spreadsheets, but it's way more than that. It's really about understanding how people are actually using the product, their behavior, and then using those insights to make smart decisions.
Okay, so like with Taskmaster, what kind of data would they be looking at and what would it tell them?
So they might look at something called daily or monthly active users, DAUs or MAUs. So if Taskmaster has 100,000 people opening the app at least once a month, well, that's their MAU, and it shows how many people are actually engaging, at least a little bit.
So bigger is better, right? More users.
Well, usually, yeah. But it's not just about how many people are using your app. It's also about how much they're using it, how often they're coming back. That's called user retention, and it's super important. If people are downloading Taskmaster and then just like never opening it again after a week, that's a sign that something's not working.
It's like they say, you can lead a user to the app, but you can't make them click.
Exactly. And to figure out why people might be leaving, that's where tools like Google Analytics come in. They can track what people are doing inside the app. Are they getting stuck somewhere? Are they just not using a certain feature? The data helps tell a story.
It's like being a digital detective. So we've talked a lot about what product managers do, but what makes someone good at it? What skills do you need to thrive in this kind of job?
Now that is the million-dollar question, and luckily, our sources dive deep into that. Let's get into the world of PM skills and traits.
All right, so we've covered the what of product management, but what about the who? What are those essential skills and traits that transform a good PM into a great one?
Well, if you look at our sources, one thing that comes up again and again is communication makes sense, right? PMs are talking to everyone, engineers, designers, the marketing team, stakeholders, and they got to know how to talk to each of those groups in the way that makes sense for them.
It's like they need to be fluent in multiple languages, right? Tech speak and whatever designers talk about, marketing jargon, all of it.
Yeah. A good PM can move between those worlds, explaining things so that everyone gets it.
So it's not just talking, it's understanding how to talk to who.
Exactly. And then, going beyond just the communication, there's this strategic thinking, the vision. Remember how we were saying Apple seems to know what people want before they want it?
Like they've got a time machine or something?
Right. Well, that's not just luck. That's a PM who's really looking ahead, analyzing the market, thinking about how user needs might change, and making sure their product is ready for that.
So part mind reader, part, what's it called, futurist?
You got it. They got to think a few steps ahead of the game. And of course, we can't forget about those data analysis skills we were talking about before. Being able to look at all that data and figure out what it actually means, that's key.
Data everywhere. But speaking of data, our sources also say decision-making is a super important skill for product managers. Why is that?
Well, think about it. They're constantly having to make these big calls. which features are most important, how to use the budget, how to make the users happy, but also make sure the business is doing well. They got to be able to make those choices, often with a ton of pressure.
And probably not always with all the information, right? Like sometimes you just got to make a call.
100%. And that's why being able to trust your gut, that intuition, that's a valuable skill too, even if it doesn't seem very data-driven. Sometimes you just got to take a leap of faith.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense. We've got a good picture of what makes a successful product manager, the skills, the mindset. But before we wrap up, we got to get to those product management debates you were talking about, right? The ones that get people fired up.
Oh, yeah. Got to have some fun, right? Get ready for some serious food for thought, because we're about to dive into those gray areas where there's really no right or wrong answer, just different ways of looking at things.
Hit me.
Let's start with a big one. Should product managers always prioritize user feedback over the goals of the business?
Ooh, that's juicy. Because on the one hand, you want people to love what you're building, right? But then again, you got to make sure the company's actually making money.
Exactly. And our sources really highlight this tension between making something users love and making sure it's good for the business. Some people say if you only listen to user feedback, you end up with feature creep, which is basically when your app has way too much going on because everyone wants something different.
Feature creep, that sounds kind of scary, like your app's about to explode with all the extra stuff.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, if you don't pay attention to what users are saying, you might build something amazing that nobody actually wants to use, which means no money for the business.
So it's all about finding that balance. Users are happy, business is booming.
Exactly. And that's what makes product management so challenging and so interesting.
All right, what else is on the debate docket?
How about this? Do you think a product manager absolutely needs a tech background to be good at their job?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I mean, I can see both sides. On the one hand, if you're building tech, knowing how it all works under the hood, that's got to be helpful, right?
Right. And our sources talk about how that technical background can help PMs talk to engineers better, make better decisions about what's actually possible to build, and even spot potential problems before they happen.
But then there's also that whole big picture side of product management, right?
Exactly. And that's the other side of the coin. Some people say that PMs should be really strong in strategy, marketing, understanding users, not necessarily coding whizzes.
So it's more about understanding how it all fits together rather than building it yourself.
Exactly. There are even super successful tech companies where the PMs come from all sorts of backgrounds, design, psychology, business, you name it.
Okay, so there's no magic formula here. It's about figuring out what works best for each product, each team, each situation.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes these conversations so important. It helps us see things from different angles, understand the challenges, and just really appreciate how complex it is to build the products we use every day.
Speaking of complex, we've got one more debate to get to, right? And it's a big one. Data versus intuition.
The age-old battle.
Yeah.
Do you trust the numbers, or do you go with your gut?
I feel like this is something people debate about even outside of the tech world.
Totally. And in the world of product management, our sources really stress the importance of finding a good balance between the two.
Because they both have value, right?
Exactly. Data gives you those concrete insights, those numbers you can trust to make smarter choices. But intuition, that gut feeling, that can lead to those big breakthroughs, the things you never would have thought of just by looking at a spreadsheet.
Can you think of any examples of when intuition led to a really successful product?
Well, think about Airbnb back in the day. The founders had this idea to let people rent out their homes to travelers, but apparently all the data at the time said it was a terrible idea.
I can see why. Sounds kind of risky when you put it like that.
Right. But they went with their gut. They saw a need and figured out a way to meet it, even though the numbers weren't on their side. Now, obviously, data is still super important, but sometimes you just got to take a chance, trust your instincts.
So it's about that balance again, data and intuition.
100%.
Yeah.
And how that balance looks, well, that's going to be different for every product manager and every product.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've explored so much about product management, everything from the day-to-day tasks to these big picture questions that are shaping the whole industry.
It's been awesome. And remember, the world of tech is constantly changing, so keep learning, keep asking questions, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next great product visionary.
And for our listeners, we want to hear from you. Think about an app or website you use all the time. Are they doing a great job with product management? Or could they use some help? Let us know on social media. We love hearing from you guys. That's all for today's deep dive. Catch you next time.